How to find real love as a man by changing a couple of habits. Today I want to take you on a slightly deeper dive and explore some of the emotional as well as action-based habits that you have/had that have stopped you from finding the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife. And before we go into that, I just want to tell you, one of the missions that I've always had was for people to feel at home in the world. Because if you want to be able to communicate your personality authentically and effectively, which is a prerequisite for building attraction, then you have to have a degree of comfort, at least in your interaction with a lady, or ideally a degree of comfort towards the entire world. Now, when I was 16 or 12 or whenever I wrote this down, I've been in this personal development space for a long time, I didn't know how this was going to manifest. I didn't know that I was going to end up teaching karate and thereby helping men and women become more confident through using their body. And as a result of confidence, they were better able to connect to people. And also, within a martial arts environment, just to nerd out on this for a second, it's really interesting because if you do martial arts or you've at least heard stories about martial arts environments, dojos, and it's a very respectful space, not only because there's a constant threat of violence. It was funny, a friend of mine, he had a professional boxing fight and I was backstage with the fighters. And it was interesting because it was absolutely peaceful, yet there was quite a bit of tension in the air because anybody could knock out anybody at any given point in time. So it's quite interesting. So the environment in and of itself created a group for people to connect and they became more confident. And that was probably one of my first encounters with coaching, and I realized, okay, helping people feel at home in the world, not just by being in nature, which can be absolutely beautiful and which I recommend for you as well. Go swim in the cold Irish Sea, go to forests. If you're in the US, find some beautiful Sequoia National Parks or wherever you want to go. Check out a variety of different places. But in the essence, it's not even nature, it's people. And science is very clear that we as human beings need people. We are relational. And what gets in the way from us feeling at home in the world and being able to connect to people? Well, negative emotions. How about that? And I would like to offer you the following idea. That there's no such thing as a negative emotion, that there are painful emotions, but that these negative or painful emotions are always only a signal that you need to either change your perceptions or your actions. Gunther Schmidt, one of Germany's best psychologists in my opinion, says that fear, for example, as an example of a negative or painful emotion that we would rather avoid, wouldn't we, is actually a very valuable competence because it gives us a signal that we are suffering a perceived lack of either security, protection, connection, or our ability to act. Oh, it's very different, huh? Because we all know this fear. We want to go introduce ourselves to a lady and there's a bit of anxiety. We want to give a presentation at work. There's a deal. There's a little bit of tension. And by the way, stress is just the achiever word for fear, as Tony calls it. So stress is just fear. And people have their favorite flavors of suffering. Sorry, we're in the woods, so there's some flies and I hate them, so I'm going to wave them away a bit. Your favorite flavor of suffering may be that you feel a little down every now and then. Some people call it depression. For some it's anger, for some it's fear. The three main negative dominant emotions. And if you just understand that they are a competence, if we're not talking about physiology, which is something that I'm going to get into in a couple of minutes, very important, because sometimes you experience negative emotions purely because you haven't taken care of your physiology, and I'll talk about what that means in a few minutes, then it means you have unmet needs. You feel the need to protect yourself. And if you want to go and talk to a lady, for example, and then there's a little bit of fear, well, you feel the need to protect yourself. You feel that there is a lack of protection or that you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position. Obviously, there's things like progressive desensitization that you can get into. You can change also your thinking. Because if you realize, is there really something to be afraid of? What is the worst that could happen if I introduce myself to this lady in Starbucks, in the gym, in a bar, in a club, on an online dating app, Tinder, Hinge, wherever? What's the worst that can happen? Yeah, she could reject me. Yeah, that's really it. Maybe some people are going to laugh about me. Maybe she's really going to tell me to fuck off, because sometimes rejections are harsh. But these harsh rejections happen quite rarely, to be honest. Most of the time, it's funny actually, when you approach women, they will actually tell you, if they haven't, not most of the time, but sometimes they'll tell you, I'm sorry, I have a husband. I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. You can actually see the pain in their eyes, realizing that they've met a superior man. I'm joking. But you get the idea, right? Most of the time, these rejections aren't even that bad. But if you go to the very end, sometimes you need to think fear all the way to the end. And only if, because that's how our brain works, our brain needs us to be okay with the most dramatic what-if scenario, even if the probability of the what-if scenario occurring is actually quite low. So if you think it all the way through, What if I get rejected? Then what? Well, people are going to laugh at me. Okay, then I'm going to experience a couple of negative emotions, but I will be okay. So, by changing your mindset, and there's 30,000 different approaches, not that many, but there's quite a few different approaches that you could take to change just your thinking, your mindset. But then it also comes down to action. Because, as I said, negative or painful emotions are always a signal that we need to change either our perceptions or actions. That's the perception side. The action side is take more action. Massive action is the cure-all. If you experience uncomfortable emotions, painful emotions, you can sometimes, most of the time, just cure them by taking more action. Look whatever you're afraid of in the eye, boom, and go right through it. Now, if we experience either fear or discomfort in social situations, then it would be nice to reduce the negative emotions and increase positive emotions. So obviously we all have needs that need to be met, and that's quite individual. So in order for us to feel fulfilled in life, which contributes to us being happy around people and just feeling at home in the world, obviously there's individual needs that we have to meet for that. But outside of that, we have a physiology, and we have patterns of focus, and we have patterns of language. And physiology is something that's so overlooked. People don't even realize this. Gunther Schmidt, he learned from Milton Erickson, who's the founder of hypnotherapy. And no, hypnotherapy is not about just putting people in trance. I believe Milton Erickson was asked, or Gunther Schmidt asked Milton Erickson, how many times have you actually put people in a trance when you worked with people? And I think Milton Erickson worked with a couple of thousand people. And only 25% of the time, when he helped people overcome emotional, traumatic issues, whatever the case may be, he actually put them in a trance. Only 25% of the time. 75% of the time, he used other resources in terms of hypnotherapy. So when you hear hypnotherapy, it's not about knocking somebody unconscious. And by the way, you can't put somebody into a state of hypnosis if the person doesn't want that. It doesn't work like that. But your own body autonomously hypnotizes you either into an empowering or disempowering state. What I'm trying to do with my clients, what I'm trying to encourage you to do, is to become more competent. I want you to feel empowered and strong and competent as a man, as an individual. And it starts with the way you use your body and paying attention to your basic neurochemistry. Sleep is the number one thing. Exercise. Gratitude meditations, the way you walk, ice baths, sauna, meditation, all these things change your neurology. They change your physiology, the way you speak, the certainty that you put behind your voice, the way you use everything that's nonverbal, and verbal I'm going to define in this context just as the actual content of your speech, the copy, your words, copywriting, marketing term, just literally the words. Everything outside of that has an impact on how you feel. We think, oh, when I feel sad, then I naturally express that in my body language. Yes, and you're right. That's true. But the way you use your body is not just an expression of how you feel, it also reinforces certain mental and emotional states. You know when you're afraid and you're doing this? Ever done this on a date? Or ever like had these little twitches? First of all, don't do that on a date. It's gonna make you come across as incredibly just weird. Don't do it, or not trustworthy. And one of the easiest ways to get rid of that is just meditate. Do 10 hours of meditation and you'll be a lot calmer. Boom, mindfulness meditation, very powerful tool, okay? Not to say that it's gonna cure everything, but it's gonna infuse a degree of calmness, because meditation quiets your mind, it opens the heart, and you return back to yourself. Meditation is so powerful because it doesn't just change your thinking, it changes your being neurologically. So that's great. But when you're doing that, that's an expression of fear, but you're actually making yourself more nervous by doing that, by being hunched over, by speaking really slowly, by exhaling. These things prime a disempowering mental and emotional state. And there's a million more examples of this. But if you just ask yourself, how am I using my body? Am I using it in an empowering way? Do I stand back straight with my shoulders back? Or do I hunch over to act like a bitch? So we all do that at times, but it's important to, boom, create radical pattern interrupts. And one of the most important ones, you're probably already doing that, is exercise 3-4 times a week. You know you are a different man before or after a workout. It's a fact. Now, you can't just be working out all the time. What else can you do? Put more certainty behind your voice. Vary the speed with which you speak. Volume. Speaking louder can fire you up. Now, you don't want to be yelling at people all the time, but every now and then temporarily raising your voice in a fun and playful, never in an angry way, but in a fun and playful storytelling way can not only get her incredibly excited, but it also boosts your mood, and the probability you're going to end up in a flow-like experience is so much higher. So the way you use your body, physiology, has a massive, I could be given a 3-hour seminar just on this one topic, on how you use your body. But if you just competently, which you already are, a very intelligent person, ask yourself, how could I use my body in a more empowering state that would increase the probability that I feel competent in life and in my interactions with women? What would I do? And simply by asking yourself that question, your system, your unconscious, the involuntary part, so to speak, responds. Because you have a very intelligent system that you're rarely tapping into. And here's my invitation for you to tap into that more often. So that's physiology. There's another part, which is patterns of focus. Whatever we focus on, we're going to feel. Tony Robbins says, what's wrong is always available, so is what's right. You could focus on a million different things that can stress you out right now. What are things you haven't done that you should be doing? I don't want to think about already. Perhaps if you allow yourself to go into that, maybe there's already a little bit of tension that's manifesting itself in your body. If you ask yourself, who loves me? Who do I really love? Who's been there for me? Who may or may not be part of my life anymore, but somebody who was there in moments in my life, who just supported me, who didn't have to do that, for no gain, personal gain for themselves whatsoever, just purely selflessly. Who were these people in my life that showed up in core moments for me? And if you allow yourself to ask that question, doesn't it change a little bit? Isn't it interesting that simply by directing our focus, and the way we do that is by asking questions, for example, we can create rapidly different emotions. You can change your mental and emotional state in seconds. The nervous system is able, and is doing it anyway all the time, of changing your mental and emotional reality. So it's not just that you roll up on the date and for 90 minutes you're going to be in one state. You can change that within the date. You can change that several times, hundreds of times during the day. When you listen, you can go from feeling kind of meh to feeling pretty good within 35 seconds of listening to one of your favorite songs, right? That changes your physiology. It changes what you focus on. Do you focus on, hope she likes me, hope she agrees, we're gonna fuck? Well, if you focus on something that you cannot control, ultimately, it's gonna produce stress. If you ask yourself, what can I control right now? What can I do to increase the probability of achieving a desired result, of finding an amazing girlfriend, life partner, or wife? Okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? Boom, and then you feel empowered. And again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, you start taking action. And the more action you take, the higher the probability that you'll achieve the outcome. So you don't want to just leave it at a conceptual mental masturbation level, but you actually need to bring it into reality. And the way you do that is always through action, but it starts with what we focus on. Because if you focus on things you cannot control, you're going to feel disempowered. And the third component in that model, it's Tony Robbins' model, by the way, is language patterns. How you speak with yourself, and make no mistake about it, you're speaking to yourself all the time anyway, has a massive impact on the relationship with yourself and thereby your mental and emotional state. And by the way, your relationship with yourself isn't something that's just there forever. It's changing. You know, you can yell at yourself in one moment and be incredibly kind in another. Tony Robbins explains this. There's this concept called the crazy eight. Some people, they go from, and I'm sure not you, neither me, would go from angry and furious when we're going through difficult times to sad and depressed. To angry and furious, to sad and depressed. You've had that, right? Where you just feel so angry, you're like, and then you start acting in ways where you push people away from you, you push yourself away from yourself, but you feel strong. At least anger At least being pissed off creates a sense of strength and certainty. And if we felt disempowered and weak and depressed, anger is quite refreshing because our nervous system needs variety. So I'd rather be angry and furious for a while than just feel like a bitch the whole time. And if I'm angry all the time, at some point, I lack connection. I may have significance and certainty, but I lack connection. And at some point, I just want to connect with myself, with people, with God maybe, the universe, whatever you believe in or don't believe in. And so I feel depressed and weak. And now I'm experiencing connection. But at some point I'm sick of feeling like a bitch. Fuck this, man. Stupid bitch didn't text me back. Oh, boom! Back to angry. Angry, furious. Back to sad and depressed. It's a crazy eight. I'm sure you've never done this. Neither have I. Huh? So what do we do in those moments? Well, we have to go up. We have to change our physiology. We have to change our patterns of focus and the way we speak to ourselves. Here's a very important technique. I touched on that in a different video, so I don't want to go into it with too much detail. But you can learn to dissociate from these disempowering states. If you feel weak in a certain moment, if you feel fear or anger, let's say you're sitting on the date and you feel a little bit nervous. Like, oh, I'm nervous, I'm afraid. Does that contribute to you feeling strong, or does it actually increase the levels of fear? Well, probably it increases them. Okay, so what if, and this works, what I'm about to present to you sounds absolutely utterly silly, but it's cutting edge neuroscience. If you just say, oh, David is a little bit nervous. Aw, David is a little bit nervous. If you do that, you are dissociating from the suffering, from the fearful part within you. You're creating a different frame of context, and you're relating to yourself from what? A more competent position. And it decreases your experience of fear. It actually works. Try it the next time you're angry. Try it the next time you feel sad. Try it the next time you feel a little bit of stress. You're stressed. Oh, I gotta do something. Oh, David is a little bit stressed. And remember, can you see the way you use the tonality? That's also called in neurolinguistic programming, it's called a pattern interrupt. Because, oh, we're stressed, there's a certain tonality, there's certain submodalities around the way we speak in our head. No, but if David is a little bit angry, he's a little bit sad. And again, this comes from one of Germany's best psychologists. I'm not making this shit up, sitting here in the forest like a crazy ginger yelling. This actually works. Try it out. If you think about something stressful, fearful, you simply relate to yourself in that way. And sometimes you got to relate to yourself in a funny, teasy way, and sometimes in a very compassionate way. For example, if you happen to go through a breakup, sometimes it's good to call yourself a bitch and wake up. Other times, it's more appropriate to simply say, oh wow, I'm having a pretty rough time. Let's say she broke up with you and you are actually experiencing a lot of negative emotions. You're thinking of all the times you've had together. Then saying to yourself, oh wow, David is actually really, really sad right now. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy to talk about yourself like that, but you're doing it anyway. You're just consciously relating in a very kind and caring way to that suffering part, to that suffering side within you. Because that part needs a lot of love. In different moments, you got to call yourself a bitch and push your ass to the gym and do the ice bath. That's where the German Hitler comes out. God, we got to bleep that. There's other moments, you got to be warm and kind. Say, oh wow. Oh, there's a lot of sadness there, huh? Okay, I see that. And that's okay. And that's okay. Very powerful. Creates a very different emotional reality. There's a lot of beautiful emotional states that we have available to ourselves at any moment. Our nervous system is capable of them. They're already in us. We've already made experiences. We can allow ourselves to tap into them when we want to. How do we do that? With patterns of focus, language patterns, what we say and how we say it, consciously, unconsciously, inwardly and outwardly, and our physiology. By changing those patterns, we create a whole new emotional reality. And when we change our emotional reality, we change how we relate to ourselves first and foremost, and if we change how we relate to ourselves, then we're better able to influence other people as well, influencing ourselves, influencing other people, and creating a world where we feel at home, where we don't just have to go to a forest to feel beautiful and connected, which is a great thing to do, but we can simply experience that moment of connection with people. But we have to assume responsibility and understand that if we're not experiencing the emotions we want, be that confidence, a sense of strength, a sense of certainty, it is just a pattern. If you experience a lot of anxiety or nervousness around women, it is just a pattern. It's just a pattern, motherfucker. It's not you. Pain happens in life, but suffering is truly optional. There's gonna be moments where you get rejected. You're like, fuck, she didn't text back. Yeah, that's normal. But the suffering comes from the meaning you give it, because we don't just focus on something, we give it a disempowering meaning. When I get rejected, and yes, guess what? You fucking got rejected. If you then say, this means I'm not desirable, I'm worth nothing as a man, I'm too much in my head, I'm ginger, I could never be loved. If that's the meaning you give it, or it doesn't work, online dating doesn't work, it just doesn't work. If that's the meaning you autonomously give the situation, then you're gonna feel weak and disempowered, because guess what? The experience of depression or feeling a little low or beaten down comes from our life's circumstances not matching our blueprint of how our life's supposed to be, and feeling unable to bridge the gap. This latter part is what actually causes the feeling of being beaten down, because pain is just the perceived delta between how things are and how things are supposed to be. But me experiencing myself as incompetent, impotent, unable to make a change, that's what causes this feeling of I'm depressed and I can't change anything anyway. But it's just a result of the things we spoke about. Your focus, your language patterns, your physiology, the meaning you attribute to things. And then, these were the emotional habits, the action habits you establish on a weekly basis. So, to control those emotions, gym, coaches and mentors, high quality male friends, spending time with loved ones, being in nature, reading, educating yourself, all these great things. And then you also gotta get out there and actually meet women. Use online dating, take it serious, download Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Match.com, compare the apps, present yourself in a great way, learn how to use Instagram, do all that, and then go out there and socialize. Because guess what? Sometimes when we don't feel great, when we feel a little bit weak, are we more likely to go out and socialize, or less likely? Less likely. Why? Because when we're in a disempowered state, that disempowered state wants us, if we were to model it or name it, just for the sake of the argument right now, as an entity in and of itself, wants us to stay in that suffering state. But what would break a suffering state? Laughing with people, having fun, joking. That would make a big, big difference. But no, we want to stay at home. The first thing is to leave the house. Leave the house, motherfucker. Go out there, socialize. You don't have to go to clubs, but at least meet people in your gym. CrossFit, meetups. Go to a bar every now and then. Socialize. Do the approaches. It will transform you in ways you can't even begin to imagine until you've done it. You'll not just leave your comfort zone. Oh, that could have been very fucking eloquent right now, but it wasn't. You won't just leave your comfort zone, but you'll actually expand it. Yes, you will temporarily have to do something you're uncomfortable with, but in the end, you will actually expand your zone of emotional comfort. You don't have to do this forever. You just have to do this for X amount of months until you're in a relationship, and then there's different communication patterns in the relationship. You don't have to go out there and socialize, date women forever. That's not what this is about. You want to have a family, right? Of course. But you gotta at least temporarily allow yourself to go all in on the process. If you want to have a high quality relationship, if you say, well, I'm just okay with anything, nope, well, then you can just wait to stumble on to somebody. But if you have a goal and an extraordinary relationship, a great relationship, is an extraordinary result, then you have to be willing to do extraordinary things, which is, guess what? Talk to fellow members of the human species, as crazy as this sounds. So, these are emotional patterns. Now, there's also, well, flies. There's also habits of how you relate to women. And masculine and feminine energy is another thing that I would like to talk about briefly. I was predominantly raised by my mother because my father was working a lot, very proud of him, amazing man. They got a divorce eventually as well because they weren't right for each other. So the two words that I heard from my mother most often, other than clean your room, were sei lieb, which is German for be kind, be kind, be kind. Or you could also call it be nice, be kind, kind of similar. And so I grew up with a lot of feminine energy. 80% of my clients over the years that I've been doing this are introverts. I'm quite extroverted. Now that didn't help me with women a lot. It really didn't. Because you can be social and confident in business, in your career, you can be killing it in those areas, or in your health, or whatever other area that you're good at. But you can be quite insecure with women because, oh, that's one of the greatest fears. This is where our worth as a man gets tested, right? So we have all kinds of insecurities around that. So did I as well. And I was very good at friend zoning myself with these ladies because I would talk to them and I would talk to them about the issues they have with other men. And I'd give them advice because I was like coaching, helping people, you know. And then I was friend zoned and I was talking to this one girl about the issues she had with this guy and I felt like an idiot, but some contact was better than nothing. And yeah, so you get yourself friend zoned if you have too much feminine energy. And most of you have too much feminine energy. Or let me rephrase that. It's not that you don't have too much feminine energy. You're not allowing yourself to tap into the experience of masculinity. It's already in you. Masculinity is not, you need to learn skill sets. There's certain pieces of information that need to be put into your head externally. That's true. The same with your business, the same with your career. There's certain things you're not born with, you don't have. Intuition, yes. As an overarching principle in terms of where you should go with your life, yes. Intuitively listen to your gut, 100%. But there's skill sets and little data points that you don't have that need to be put into your head. Fine. But you have everything that you need to embody masculinity. You're just not allowing yourself to do that because it's a habit. You've had the habit of being very feminine, of not leading, of not being assertive, of not being disagreeable. You need to become, that's the first layer. I'm going to talk about the power of femininity in a moment, by the way, and why I'm not a pickup artist, and why I don't think that you're going to be this full-time tough guy all the time. But you do have to learn to become more disagreeable. You do have to learn to lead more, to embody that, she needs you to be able to make good love to her. Women want that, you know, obviously be kind and respectful and consensual, of course, all of that. But she needs to feel that there is a man behind that. And if you don't allow yourself to embody that in your nonverbal communication, she's going to map your behavior on the date to the future. Family, but also intermediary, intimacy. And even if you choose to not have sex before marriage, which is fine, I've had clients who are so religious they don't want to do that. That's absolutely fine. We've helped them find someone and we're helping them find people as well, no issue. But then still the intimacy manifests itself in different ways. You need to allow yourself to become way more masculine in your expression around women. And it's within you. It's already there. But in order to experience that, yes, you can go to the gym, you can boost your testosterone, but you need to be around men. You need to have virtual and local. You need to have a global network and a local network. You need both of high quality male friends. I think there's studies, I haven't read them, I've heard about it, but it makes sense from my subjective experience that if you are around men who are competing, you will feel more masculine. Me and my friends, around a month ago or so, we attended a race in Ireland, 2.5 hours in the middle of the fucking countryside. I don't know why they did it there. There was this big castle, this big race, and you went through the mud and knees were busted up. And it was all fun and good, and we were totally exhausted, so we exerted ourselves physically. It was Ireland, so it was raining a bit, it was all muddy and wet. And then by the end of it, we were standing in showers that looked like a concentration camp, to be honest. Jesus Christ. But there was just all these men from different teams afterwards, after it was over, in underwear, muddy and wet as fuck, waiting to get their 3-4 minute turn in the shower to wash themselves. Do you think there was one depressed person, one anxious, one scared person there? No! Everybody felt pretty fucking good. Maybe exhausted, maybe a little bit pissed that they didn't win the race. But if you are around other men who are competing, your testosterone goes up. You are made to be in the company of other men all the time. Not just sometimes, motherfucker. All the time. Your brain was developed during a time where you had your tribe of 50 to 100 to 200 people around you all the time. Not just sometimes. Oh yeah, but I'm an introvert. I get it. But the introverts back in the day, if this was our forest, you're my forest and our tribe's forest, you'd be chilling over there by yourself on that stone. And you'd be reading a book or chewing leaves. But you'd still be close enough to the tribe, because our brain learned that if we are too far away from the tribe, we die. 200,000 years ago, if you left the tribe, if you were sent into exile, perhaps because you acted too far outside of the agreed upon norms, which is, by the way, where our fear of rejection comes from, then you die, because animals would eat you, other tribes would attack you, you would starve because you need other men to go hunt with, or at the very least you would lose the opportunity to pass on your genetic legacy to other female members of the tribe. So Darwin instilled in all of us the understanding that if we act too far outside of what the tribe wants, we're going to get kicked out. So that produced fear of rejection. And we also learned that being away from the tribe is dangerous, therefore it inherently increases cortisol. Fear, right, or stress can just be a result of not having enough masculine friends. You see this all the time, for better or worse. When men are in groups of men, they feel a lot more confident. Sometimes they do stupid shit and some of them are violent, and I don't condone that at all. I think we should be super nice to one another. But this experience of being with men is amazing. You don't even have to do anything productive. Yes, you can be talking about business. Yes, you can be going to the gym. Yes, you should be going and approaching and meeting women together. Absolutely. But sometimes you're just playing PlayStation, you're smoking a cigar, perhaps you're drinking some alcohol, maybe not. Maybe you're just going hiking, maybe you're doing rock climbing, but you're just being together. Because we're human beings, not just human doings. So you need more masculinity. Now, femininity is also important because women, in our interactions with them, they only ever need one of two things. Either more value, respect, as in they need to perceive us as valuable, they want to respect us, or they need more trust and connection. It's always one of those two. And women will give you hints. If you learn to listen to them in the interaction and you learn to pay attention, you'll see, do I need to emphasize my communication now more the masculine, the value, the respect side, or the feminine, the connection part? Most of you, as I said, need to build your value in her eyes. It's not about the value of your soul, it's not about finances, but it's about masculinity in essence. But then it's also trust and connection. I truly believe, being raised by my mother and being super fortunate to have amazing friends. I lived in Dubai for a short period of time and I came back to Ireland because I have so many amazing friends here. It's friends, man. That's really what it's about. And being fortunate to have these friends, I realize that feminine energy is very important. And I have a lot of that. When you see me around Fernanda, around my baby, come here for a second, babe. No? Okay. Just 2 seconds, please. You're beautiful. Come here. 2 seconds. She doesn't like it. I sometimes do that in coaching call with clients and then she gets angry. My baby teen, you're cute. Come here. Oi. Come here. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Being pimp? Are you pimp?
Yes.
Yes. So most of the, you are cold. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. Put on Adam's jacket. Put it on. So, because another friend of mine, he's going to film a video for himself as well. When we're around each other, most of the time I'm not, what am I like?
Bebito.
Bebito. It's like really cute and feminine a lot of the time, you know? But then there's other moments where I'm like, what?
Boss.
Exactly, boss. Love you. Thank you so much. Anything you want to share?
Just my love.
Thank you. See you, babe. Put on that jacket, otherwise you're going to be freezing. So, it is very important that you allow yourself to embody those feminine characteristics, because I don't know who said this and I would love to give credit, but anybody who pretends to be a full-time tough guy is a part-time liar. You can't just be masculine all the time. It doesn't work. People want to connect, and the way you connect is by making yourself totally vulnerable, totally open, and embodying those beautiful feminine parts in you. But that's the second step. That you're not lacking that. You are lacking the masculine side. I'm just telling you right now that you absolutely need both. That the interplay between masculine and feminine energy and the appropriate proportions are determined by you, or have been, based on who you are. That's exactly where the magic happens, in the space between masculine and feminine energy. So one thing that I want to touch on is this idea of leadership. Being a masculine man means being a leader. Now, what does being a leader mean in a relationship? Well, for me, it definitely doesn't mean that you tell women what to do. You have no right to tell women what to do, and neither do women have a right to tell you what you should be doing. Absolutely not. But being a leader means taking the initiative. So, today, I said, Fernanda, let's go here. And she was like, yeah, cool, let's do that. But we went for a walk. I said, should we go here, should we go there? And then we just went, we went into the city, not all the way, and then we walked back. I'm not interested in being a dictator, a tyrant. Woman, bring me coffee. Da-da-da. No, I don't like that. Yeah, I asked Fernanda, babe, can you make me a hot chocolate, please? I do, but that's different. It comes from a different place, okay? It doesn't come from you're my slave, I'm telling you what to do, but it comes from an understanding of roles that you individually get to define in your relationship. I have no interest in saying, as a man, you do this. As a woman, you do this. Yeah, there are certain universal criteria of what makes a man, in my opinion, but I also think there's 4 billion different versions of what it means to be a man. But she needs you to be a fucking leader. If you don't lead and you don't suggest a course of action with a degree of certainty, and then you're flexible to change if she'd like you to do that, she will never respect you. Let that sink in. So instead of asking, what would you like to do for the date? Boom! You might as well hold up a Dyson to her vagina. It'll dry out just as quickly. What would you like to the date? Boom, dry. She doesn't like that. She wants you to lead. Hey, let's go do this. I'm not sure. And here's the really important key. If she says she's not sure, then hey, be emphatic. Be like, hey, come on, let's go do this. It'll be fun. But if she says, no, I would actually rather, that's completely different. And then if she makes a different suggestion, let her. Because if she has a different suggestion for what you guys should be doing, well, then it's her investing in the relationship. Being a leader also means being calm and grounded enough to understand that part of the feminine nature is to be wild and to be emotional, and for you to be the calm and grounded rock and let storms pass. Sometimes women are going to say a lot of different things. And she may say one thing in one moment and something completely different in the next moment. And it doesn't mean that she lied to you. She was just expressing her current mental and emotional reality in that very moment. And she may have a very different mental and emotional reality a couple of minutes later, after she felt that you were just present, not judging, not trying to fix the problem. You were just being present with her, not shaken, not letting her emotional state take over yours. You were just there. You were creating your mental and emotional state competently. She has a different mental and emotional state, and all of a sudden the words change and you realize, man, this is a different person in front of me. What's going on here? But no, she just expressed her different mental and emotional reality. That's where this idea comes from, that women never lie. They only express whatever they're feeling in the moment, and that can change in a heartbeat. One of the greatest gifts you can ever make a woman is being truly present. Not present in a, hey, I love you, in a cheesy, romantic type of way. That's the problem with most mainstream dating advice. They tell you, just be a good listener, just be nice, just be kind. Yes, you gotta be kind. Yes, you gotta be a good listener. Yes, all of that. And you gotta be present, but you gotta be masculine, you gotta lead, you gotta be cheesy, you gotta be disagreeable as well. Not aggressive, but if you disagree, tell her, yeah, that's complete nonsense, you know. Don't be afraid to disagree. This obviously goes a lot deeper, but allow yourself. Again, what if you asked yourself the question, if I acted masculine in my interaction with her while still being respectful, how could that possibly manifest itself? If I acted in a truly masculine, competent, wholesome way around her, what would that look like? And maybe a couple of seconds, minutes later, your system will produce a couple of ideas. And perhaps your voice will change a little bit. Perhaps your body language will change. It is absolutely important that you assume the role of a leader. Again, that doesn't mean that you talk, and also leadership. Let's go further on this, okay? There will be moments where she'll be the leader. This is where a lot of these hardcore masculinity guys are going to disagree with me. I think there's moments where the woman has to be the leader. What relationship is it if she can never lead? Even if she has an idea and then I agree, isn't she then being the leader because she's leading with the idea and I'm following her train of thought, which then may manifest itself in a different approach to the relationship, a different plan for the date? Absolutely. That's where the spice comes from. But again, if I were to go tell you now, let a woman be the leader, women would lose interest in you immediately, because in the beginning it's about more masculinity, because you have to build value first, masculinity first, and then you can always calibrate with a little bit of femininity later. But initiate, be disagreeable, be a fucking man, but at the same time also allow yourself to embody whatever is true about you, because there's a lot of people, maybe you're very successful in your career, your business, maybe you're very good with your health, you probably have at least one area where you're doing very well. And maybe sometimes you're not necessarily experiencing the levels of joy that you would like to experience. And part of that might come down to you having cut off certain parts within yourself because you were trying to please other people. Because this whole talk of masculinity, I think it's very, very, very important. And again, I'm engaging in it myself here as well. But it's also important that individuality comes first, right? I'm not typically masculine in a lot of different ways, as you saw earlier. That's not typically masculine, but I'm super, super masculine in other ways. She's like, yeah. You know, they need to experience all of it. But allow yourself to lean into these childish parts within you. Not childish in an immature way, childish in this beautiful, kindred, untethered soul type of way. Because there is an intelligence within you that can give you a lot of indicators as to what's right for you and what isn't. And sometimes maybe just a slight tweak in your expression, freedom of expression, to be truly yourself, not just the way the mainstream tells you. Yes, you do have to learn attraction building strategies. You got to add all of that on top of that. It can't just be, I'm myself, I'm a butterfly, I'm floating around the dating market and I'm wondering why women are losing interest in me when I'm just being myself. That's the mainstream approach. No. You learn attraction building principles. You learn all the theory, you study it. You learn to communicate your personality authentically and effectively. You learn how to build physicality. You learn how to be respectful. You learn storytelling. You do all of that. And then you do it in your own individual way. Because this slight tweak in being more raw and unfiltered and truly more you can make you so happy. It might make it so easy for you to experience so much more joy in this world if you allowed yourself to tap into these beautiful, beautiful parts within you. Because in order for a woman to stick around long enough to get to know you, to get to know those feminine parts, you first have to actually lean into the masculinity. But what's going to keep her around is that beauty. Any person that you have a real relationship with, it's, you know, some men who are just so cool that sometimes they're really like cool and very masculine, which I am, which we all are as men. If we've achieved anything in our career or business, we got to be able to develop that warrior archetype. And that means sometimes we can be a bit of a stubborn, stern, pain in the ass. We're a little bit pissed off sometimes. We're just masculine, or like at least in business. But you know, there's moments when they crack up and they laugh and you like in that moment, I can see their soul and our souls connect. That's what people stay around you for, your male friends, your woman, your everybody, because they want that. But women won't stay around beyond the first date if you can't develop those core masculine traits. And again, it is just a habit. There's so many more things that I would love to talk to you about, but I think it was long enough. I have no idea how long this video went on for. Look, the one thing that I want you to understand is just habits. The habit of being yourself is something that you can develop, of tapping into who you are, develop the skill set, yes, and then infuse it with a degree of authenticity, create a new desirable emotional reality, which you can do absolutely every day. You have a new chance to engage in that, and then you'll be able to find an amazing woman and create a beautiful life and be yourself and have lots of joy in the process. I truly wish you all the best. See you soon.